Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and today we are going to create a super fun program. We're going to create a voting simulator program. So I'm here in Replit. I'm going to go ahead and grab a Java program, and I'm going to call it Voting Booth Sim. We'll call it a voting booth simulator program. Now, before I start working on this, I want to make sure you guys understand I am not creating a voting booth simulator that works exactly like voting works in the United States. The way voting normally works is you have a primary, which is run up to the general election. And in that primary, your parties pick their candidates. And then in the general election, you get to pick who you want to be, which party essentially you want to lead the country. And that party's nominee becomes the president, right? We're going to do something different. I'm going to give you 3 parties to choose from, and then I'll give you a couple candidates to choose from within those parties. I'm doing it this way just because it makes for a more interesting program, and it allows us to learn some of the concepts that we've been learning over the last couple of weeks. So let's go ahead and create our program here. Yeah, some of you are going to be like, Mr. Storm doesn't know how voting works. Yes, I do know how voting works. This is going to be just for fun. This is just for fun. We're not going to submit this program to be the next voting booth software for the next election. Okay, so before we get started, before we even really start writing some actual code and filling out these methods, we need to create the methods that we want, right? We want to plan out our methods. Now, next week, I think it's next week. Anyway, coming up soon, we're going to be learning about planning documents that programmers use for their programs, for the software they're developing, because our programs are going to get pretty complicated. And I don't mean complicated by hard to understand. I mean, there's going to be a lot of different methods in them. And you'll see in this project, we're going to use a bunch of different methods. So it's probably best for us to create those methods before we start writing code. That way we don't forget to, and we know where everything is supposed to go. So we have our main method. That's always going to be there. But we need let's make a void. Let's call this intro. And this is going to be the method that handles our introduction and gives them their options for parties to vote for. And then let's give them the parties. So static void, and I'm going to say IND for independent. And let's do static void REP for Republican. And then let's create static void DEM for Democrat. And those will be the 3 parties that we give them options to vote for. And then the last method is just going to be a method called end. This is going to end our program in a nice clean way. So no matter what we choose, it's going to end the same way. So those are all the methods we're going to use. We're going to use our main method, intro, independent, Republican, Democrat, and end. So again, it's best for you to create these methods right off the top. Now, I also know we're going to be bringing in user input. That's kind of the whole point of this project. So let's go ahead and bring in our library, our scanner. So import Java util.scanner. All right. And then we're not going to need the scanner for this method, for the main method, but we do want to put in a comment, Mr. Storm, and the name of the program, we'll call it Voting Simulator. All right, and then let's just call the intro method from here. Now we're done with the main method. Main method's done. All right, so we have our Java utility scanner. Let's go ahead and create that. Let's make a variable section here. And let's create a new version of our scanner. So scanner, we'll call it reader equals new scanner, and we'll say system.in. Now, I know I'm going to be using this scanner in multiple methods. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be using this scanner in pretty much every method that we use. Now, the thing is, I can't create multiple instances of this scanner within this class. I have to use this scanner in this class for all of the methods. That means that we have to actually pass in this value into each of our methods that we're going to use it in. So this independent is going to bring in a scanner called reader. The Republican method is going to bring in a scanner called reader. And the Democratic method is going to bring in a scanner.reader. And then we'll also pass it into our end method. So let's do that as well. Scanner reader. Now the reason why we're doing that is, like I said, you cannot have multiple scanner class or scanner instances within this class. So once we create it, we just need to use the same scanner all the way through, but we need to pass in that scanner instance to each method in which we're going to use it. If we don't, then it's going to cause all kinds of issues. When I was building this program just to make sure it worked, I had about a half an hour where I had to troubleshoot an issue related to this exact thing here, where the scanner wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So that was frustrating. But part of the fun of programming is solving problems that you didn't know existed. So we also need to close our reader. So I'm going to close it here in our end method. So that way it's closed and we no longer have to worry about it being open the whole time. Okay, so now we have our scanning functionality put in there. Let's think about the other variables we need. First, I'm going to want a variable for name. I'm just going to ask them what their name is. And then we're going to want a string variable for their user choice, whatever they typed. Now, for choice, I usually use the keyword user, or I use the variable name user. You can use whatever you want. To me, that just makes sense, like whatever the user is typing. Okay. Let's write our introduction. So, system.out.println. Welcome to the, let's see, we're going to have an election in 2024, 2028, and then let's do this, the 2032 election. Please cast your vote. Actually, we'll say thank you for casting your vote. There we go. Thank you for casting your vote. And then system.out.print. This is where we're going to have them enter their name. Please enter your name, citizen. We'll do a comma there. Please enter your name, citizen. Scooch that over just a bit. Okay. Then we'll say name equals reader dot. Now, here's an issue that we've run into, that you may have run into with the last couple programs we used. This reader, or this scanner class, has a bunch of different methods, and the one we've been using is this next, right? Now what that's going to do is it's going to bring in the next word that is typed, and as soon as you hit space, then it's going to assume that's the next, right? So if I were to type, for name, David space Storm, then it will only capture David, and then whenever I'm looking for the next string, it's going to put in Storm. So that can cause some issues. We want people to be allowed to type like maybe a full line of text. So instead of next, we're actually going to use, where is it? Next line. Where is it? It's in here. Next line right there. We're going to use next line. What that's going to do is it's going to basically take an entire line of text, and spaces won't really matter. So whenever we hit enter, that's when it's going to capture whatever we've typed. Okay, so system out dot print line. We'll say name plus, and please choose the political party you are voting for. And again, I know that this isn't how voting usually works. You already have candidates chosen by the parties and you choose between those candidates. But we're going to pretend that the voting system has drastically changed between now and 2032. All right. And I'm actually going to copy this so I don't have to type system.out.println every time. So we'll say println, let's do one independent. Yeah, that's how you spell it. We'll say 2 is Republican. And we'll say 3 is Democrat. Okay. Then system.out.print, enter your choice. Okay. So at this point, we want to capture whatever they type, user equals reader dot, and we'll do this as a next line as well, just to be safe. Okay, so now we've given them 3 parties to choose from. They make their choice, and then what do we want to do? Now I guess now we can start checking to see who they voted for. So let's check user input, and we can call these methods based on what they entered in this thing. So we're going to use an if statement. So this is the stuff that we've learned. This is the stuff we've learned this week. And we're going to check those strings against specific inputs. So we're going to say if user dot equals 1. So if user equals 1, if they've typed 1. Now, we also want to account for the idea that maybe they typed independent instead of just 1. Now, most people aren't going to type the full like capital I, NDEP. And so what we can do is we can change this from user. Yeah, we can actually add something here, and we can say lower. No, is it 2 lower? Yeah, 2 lowercase. So what that's going to do is this extra method here attached to the end of this next line, it's going to make whatever we typed turn into a lowercase value instead of an uppercase. So actually, let's comment this out, and I'm going to show you how that works. So we'll do system.out.println, and we'll say user. Okay, let's run it and make sure that this part so far already works. And it's going to take a while to run. Okay, please enter your name. My name is Fart Monster McGee. Fart Monster McGee, please choose the political party you are voting for. And I will say independent. And I spelled it wrong and everything else. But notice how it took what I typed and it turned it into a lowercase word, right? And it actually ignores numbers as well. So like if I just typed 1, it would just make it 1, which is fine. Fart Monster. And so if I typed 1, it would just say 1, right? So this 2 lowercase method is awesome for whenever we're checking for things, because we don't want to check for every possible iteration of this case, right? So we'll say if user equals 1, or, and remember that vertical line, 2 vertical lines makes an or, and the or is above the enter key. It's the backslash, but shift backslash. So or user dot equals independent. I always spell that word wrong. I think I did it right though. Okay, perfect. So if they either type 1 or independent, and we can even try to catch for like if they type 1 dot space independent like I have up there, but I'm not going to worry about that. You can do that if you'd like. So we'll say if that happens, then we're going to call the independent method, and we're going to pass in reader. because we're asking for a reader, so we're going to pass in reader. All right, we'll say else if user dot equals 2 or user dot equals Republican, then we call the Republican method and pass in reader. All right. Next, we'll say else if user dot equals 3 or user dot equals Democrat. We'll say dem and then reader. Okay, now that looks like we're done, right? We're accounting for independents, Republicans, Democrats, but you always want to have your final else. Hello, that's not what I wanted. You always want your final else to be basically a catch-all for any possible, let's say they typed, I don't know, a booger face, right? That's not any of the things we're looking for, right? It's not 1, 2, 3, independent, Republican, Democrat. Booger face is none of these. So we want to basically say, hey, I don't recognize that input as one of the options. Now, when we get into loops, you can give them the opportunity to go back and re-enter their choice. For us, we're just going to say system.out.print line. I'm sorry, I don't recognize your response. I guess you aren't a true patriot and you are banned from voting forever. All right. So if they enter the wrong thing, no more voting for you, you're banned. Okay, perfect. So now we have our if-else statements, and they're kind of working, but we don't really know if they're working because we haven't been able, we can't test them out yet. Let's just put a very standard system.out.print line, and we'll say independent, and let's copy that. Oh, hello. Print or paste. We'll change this to Republican. And Democrat. I just want to test out to make sure that these method calls are actually working the way we want them to. So it's going to ask me for my name. Fart monster. Let's try independent first. And look, it says independent. It actually did it. All right, perfect. Now, why did it also print 1? Oh, why did I do that? Oh, I was testing it. That's right. I forgot to get rid of the thing I was testing. All right, so we know independent works. We can call the independent method. So that statement works. Fart monster. And let's try Republican. So then I can vote Republican. Let's try it for Democrat. Come on. Shouldn't be taking this long to load. I'm just going to say fart. And Democrat. So now I know all of my method calls are working. So my if-else statement is working. The last thing we want to check is if I type something it's not expecting. So let's say I want to vote for the Libertarian Party. I'm sorry, I don't recognize your response. I guess you aren't a true patriot and you are banned from voting forever. Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much, program. All right, so now we know these method calls are working, so let's go ahead and put some stuff in these methods. So instead of just telling them independent, let's say your choices are, And let's give him some choices. I'm going to copy this line. Copy paste is your friend, especially whenever you have a lot of programs or a large program with a lot of statements in it. Okay, so I'm going to say, let's see, what should be the independent? Well, I'm an independent, so we'll say Mr. Storm. I'm running for president in 2032, in case you didn't know. And we'll say Cyborg, come on, Cyborg Bernie Sanders, because, you know, he's an independent. And by then, I'm sure he'll be a cyborg. And we'll say the ghost of George Washington. An independent president. Okay, so those are our choices for independent. For Republic, actually, no, we need to do something. We need to bring in their choice, right? So we'll say string choice equals reader dot next line. Okay, then we need to call the end method, right? So we'll say end, and then we're going to bring in that scanner or the reader, and we also want to pass in choice because we got to pass their choice to the method. So the end method, we also need to account for that. Let's say string choice. Okay, so now I can pass that in. Why is that not? The method end scanner in, yeah, it's fine. It'll fix itself. Okay. So now that we're good there, let's test that out and make sure that that works. But first, let's write our end method so that we have some final thing that shows up. So system.out.println. We'll say, thank you, citizen, for casting. Now, here's a note. Right here, I said, thank you, citizen. You technically could do the same thing we did with the scanner and just pass in this name variable to each of these methods if you really wanted to. I'll show you what that looks like. So down here, we'd have to fix our methods first. So we'll also take in string name. And then here we'll say name. But in here, we'll also need to take in string name. And when we call the independent method, we'll need to pass in name. So now what that'll do is down here, I can say thank you plus name for casting your vote for, and we'll say choice. 2 more votes and you win a free fighter jet. Okay. Oh, I forgot my plus there. Okay. So now if we run this and vote for an independent candidate, everything should work. We still have to fix all the other methods to pass in name, but we can do that pretty quickly. So my name is Fart Monster McGee. Fart Monster McGee, please choose the political party you're voting for. I'm going to vote independent, and I'm going to vote for Cyborg Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Fart Monster McGee, for casting your vote for Cyborg Bernie Sanders. 2 more votes and you win a free fighter jet. So I have casted my vote. I don't actually need that comma there. It kind of breaks up the sentence. Anyway, so let's fix those methods so that we can pass in name to all of them. Name. Name. And then we need to fix these so they output name, which we already, oh no, we need to fix these so they take in name. String name. String name. Okay, that way we can pass our name variable all the way to our end. Okay, now the last thing we have to do is just fill out, Republican and Democrat. So that's pretty easy to do. Let's just go ahead and copy all of this and we'll paste it right in there and then change our choices. So for Republican, let's say, I don't know, Mr. Storm's not a Democrat or not a Republican. Not a Democrat either, but I know that, let's say Ivanka Trump. She's a Republican, right? Who else? Kanye West. Kanye West. And Major Workman's mustache. Yeah. I don't know if Major Workman is a Republican, but I'm pretty sure his mustache is. So there we go. And then Democrat. That's the last one. So Mr. Storm is not a Democrat, but FDR's wheelchair probably is. And let's see. A folder of strongly worded memos. And let's say a person who is totally not Hillary Clinton in a disguise. Okay. So those are the choices that I'm giving them. Now, I want you guys to come up with your own choices, obviously. Don't just copy everything that I'm writing. Yeah, come up with your own. And you can change the parties. You can do whatever. You can change this around however you want. Okay, at this point, I'm pretty sure the program is finished. Let's go ahead and give it a run and see if we like it, see if it works. So enter your name, Fart Monster. Fart Monster, please choose the political party you're voting for. I'm going to vote for a Democrat. Okay, and I want FDR's wheelchair. Thank you, Fart Monster, for casting your vote for FDR's wheelchair. 2 more votes and you win a free fighter jet. So there you go. That is a pretty complex program that we've just written, but it uses these if-else statements and Boolean values, determining whether things are equal, returning true, and then we're also practicing those methods that we learned last week. And we're making something that's pretty cool, pretty fun, pretty, it will change every time. You can give someone this program, they can play around with it and see all the choices that you made. There are some things we might want to do, like maybe add some space in between some of this text output so it doesn't look like a jumbled mess. But other than that, it looks pretty good, and I'm pretty happy with the result. And we're only at about 84 lines of code, so not too bad. All right, this video has been extremely long, so I'm going to stop rambling and let you go. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.